about it. Okay.
Thanks.
You turned on.
Got it.
Sort of a personal question, isn't it?
Okay, I'm not blushing now.
So this is working. Have you got this written up?
Right here.
I really thank you. I think it would be a good thing to write up, Paul.
Okay.
You articulated in a cohesive way a lot of the stuff we've been banging around for a while, so I think it would be a really good thing to try to
It's good
grab.
when the George Wright site form.
Yeah, it
Publish,
does.
publish.
That, I agree. Yeah. I'll do that.
So, is this
Yes.
fine? Okay.
You're turned on now.
How can you tell?
Can you edit this, please?
Oh no, it's going straight to the website.
Thank you. It's good to see a lot of old friends out there, and I've been listening to you three, and I've been excited. I mean, you guys are all talking about some terrific stuff, progressive stuff, and as you've been talking about this stuff, I've kind of rearranged my outline 4 or 5 times.
You wanted to go out and get anchor does.
I got up at 4 o'clock Eastern this morning, and I'm kind of hurting, and I'm really kind of lost in terms of how I really want to do this. And I think it just finally came to me. There's some great things that learning and development is doing. Learning and development is getting a rebirth in many of the career fields. Our Washington office has a structure and an energy that, frankly, I haven't seen in my career. We're working on academies, journey-level courses of study, if you will, and it's 7 of the career fields, and please don't ask me which is 7 because I may not remember. I can tell you about ours. We've got infrastructure in place. We've got the certification program, which has been around for 15 years. We've got more than 7,000 interpreter products where people have sent an example of their work in, and peers have taken a rubric, a national standard, and said, hey, it makes it or it doesn't. About 4,000 of them said, yeah, this meets the national standard. To my knowledge, it's the only time that the qualitative part of what's interpretive has ever been quantified. It's ever really been measured. That's cool. That's still going on. We've got the EPLI online distance learning stuff, where when Julie and I were, and many others, were working on the business plan a few years back now, and we started to count up who does interpretation. And there's about 5,000 employees, permanent and seasonal, and then you got like 54,000 volunteers. And then the rest of us who wear uniforms, we wear uniforms because we have some public contact, which means that we have some interpretive responsibility. And so we're at about a number of 70,000 now without even starting to count, because we don't know how to count concessioners or anything like that. So that's a lot of practitioners. And when I started as a training manager 8 years or so ago, we worked pretty hard. We had some of the highest numbers of any of the training programs. I was lucky if I had 3,000 butts in chairs for at least 1 hour in a year. And so 3,000 against 70,000 got kind of scary. Well, here's this online stuff now that it's not perfect, but it's actually pretty good, and it's a good thing to get people started with, and now that's accessible to the whole 70,000, and more. I mean, that's great. So that infrastructure is in place. And then we didn't want to lose the personal touch, so lately we've been working on, and it's really kind of in place now too, this coaching network, so that we kind of went back to the old interpretive skills programs that some of you long in tooth may remember, which was a fantastic program in its day. Basically regional teams of trainers who would train practitioners in their region. Well, we built a set of about 70 of them now. Regional teams, regional coaches who can coach and teach other coaches within their regions. And we're out to almost 400 local coaches now, the second generation down, from the regional folks on down. And they actually use the online delivery of pretty much the entry and the developmental level competencies, the interpretive talk, the informal visitor contact, interpretive writing, those things. They use those online courses with a set of specified activities and a way of grading those activities that provides a consistency, but also gives a face-to-face encounter, coaching, mentoring, that we never really had before. And that can grow. We actually started to work with the National Association of Interpretation as well, so that they're actually teaching our curriculum and endorsing our training, which has never happened before, in order that they have trainers who can be coaches to people outside the National Park Service, who can also do the same thing, who can go through and get an advanced credential. If people want to take the class and just get a basic credential, they take the test at the end, and that's great, they've completed it. But if they get this coach and they go through it, they get good learning, and they get the advanced credential, and people are surprisingly eager for credentials. I'm intrigued by it. So, that stuff's all in place. And now, learning and development has come along and said, we're going to spend some money on this academy. I put together a big group about a year ago, National Education Council, the NELC, the National Interpretation and Education Leadership Council, it's the regional chiefs and a handful of others. And then some other chiefs, we had about 40 of us in a room, and we decided, here, we identified basically 120 competencies that make up the galaxy of what interpretation consists of. That doesn't mean that every interpreter needs all 120,000, or 120. But you should be able to look at it on a map. You should be able to look at them on a career chart or something and say, if I want to go this way, this is this, and I want to go that way, that's that. And so a lot of them are the full performance level at the academy. And so this climate change, great work that Paul was talking about, again, one of its frames, one of its engines is this SME group, subject matter expert group, that is defining a competency. And is boldly defining a competency by also embracing the civic engagement kinds of practices. Not just laying information on the visitor, but looking at this as a long-term game, doing evaluation as we go through this. How's it working? What are visitors getting? And adjusting our message as time goes on, because this is going to go on a long time. And we need to be nimble, we need to be able to respond and understand our audiences as they progress and as they become more sophisticated and as things change. But one of the wonderful things about it is I kind of look at it as a strategic action. It's tactical in the sense that we're creating a single competency. My guess is we'll end up with an array. It's complicated, so we'll end up with an array of deliveries. Maybe online stuff and maybe classroom stuff. And that's for later. We'll get to that as we go along. But as interpreters, our target right now is full performance GS9 interpreters. Everyone can interpret climate change well. That's the goal. As they learn this engagement stuff, it's like a virus. It's going to spill over into other ways of dealing, other subject areas, and just ways of looking at the visitor. And it's a way of helping interpreters in general start to think in terms of evaluation and audience feedback in ways that maybe we haven't done universally before. So it's this neat. I'm sorry we have to do it, obviously, climate change, but it's also a way of kind of raising the level of a lot of the work that we do strategically over time. And so, I've told you about the structures that are in place. What's really, I think, exciting and fits best with what Tom and Julia and Paul have just been talking about is that maybe at least the interpretation learning and development area has matured to the point where we're not just thinking about basics, we're in this innovation space. We're in this place where we can really be responsive to what do we need now? What's coming down the pipes? We know how to do this. We know how to pull together a subject matter expert team. We know how to listen to the field. Give you another example. It's a big one, and Tom, I think, referred to it earlier. Clearly across the board, when we do both informal and some more formal needs assessment kind of work, we're hearing that the supervisors have been left out, and the chiefs, division chiefs, have kind of been left out. That you become a division chief and hopefully you survive, so you learn, and you only became a division chief probably because somehow you lucked out and survived being a supervisor, because you get the job before you necessarily know how to do the work. Well, learning and development across the board recognizes that and is trying to do something about that. But the interpreters are saying, hey, we want to do some real leadership. We want to do some big stuff with the supervisors and chiefs. And so this big SME group last year said to me, here's your marching orders. You got to start making some of that happen. So we've got some money, and we have this sort of model of handing the work back. We deeply believe that the work is best done by the stakeholders, by the people who whose work it is. And so we asked Sherry Forbes, who is the then new, now not as new, regional chief of interpretation for the Pacific West, had just recently left Glacier as chief of interpretation, so she's got the goods, as you know, what the chief is about. And Sherry, can you head this up? And I'll be your shadow. I'll make sure it fits into learning and development. I'll make sure we can put this stuff in what we want to be eventually in a year or so, a chief's course of study, a sequence of experiences or a sequence of learning, so that a potential chief could take this stuff before she actually started to apply to be a chief, or a chief who kind of wishes that wanted to catch up a little bit could do it. Could do it, but just to lay out what it is, what are the key dominoes in order to be successful, as a chief. We're going to do the same thing later with supervisors, but right now we're just kind of working on the chief stuff. And usually when I'm on the SME team, it's 10, 15 of us. It depends on sort of the work. Sherry just took it and blew it up. I mean, it was like, she's got a working panel of people from around the country who are doing the legwork. She's got 3 actual SME meetings at different places in the country where she's bringing people together. Some of people here I've already seen have gotten the needs assessment survey that they're sending out to all the chiefs in the country. And that's a fabulous thing. Good gap analysis getting set up with that thing. They're planning on doing focus groups with superintendents. Well, that's an idea. What's a superintendent went out of a chief, They're thinking about this like really well, really comprehensively, and it's great. It's going to bring out something that collaboration does, something more than any one of us or any single office can pull off. And so I think that's maybe becomes one of my talking points now. Is that we've got a lot of infrastructure. We'll still keep building infrastructure with training, but we're really at a place where we can do some strategic stuff. We're really at a place where we're looking at key dominoes, and they're starting to get proactive, I guess, maybe a little bit more than reactive, and can multiply those efforts, because I'm finding more and more that I can tell people how to run a SME panel pretty easily, and they can do it. I mean, I can oversee, I can manage SME leaders, and we can keep a lot of those things in place. The only thing that's kind of slowing us down now maybe would be the money, to bring people together and to make it happen. So I guess I'm pretty excited about all of this, and I think it speaks to the 4 focus areas. I mean, the training itself is about the workforce. If we do it right, and the workforce gets to define it and create it themselves, it should become a more engaged and competent workforce. Most of you know, you're here in an interpretation thing, that whenever we're successful as interpretation, it's about stewardship. We're all about making connections. It's all about helping people care enough about a place or a thing or something that they're willing to care for the place. And it's all stewardship. And this engagement stuff, is another way of talking relevance as far as I'm concerned. It's about meeting people where they are. It's about, learning how to listen and how to, still hold your ground, still going to be who you are, still be honest about our responsibilities as an agency, but we want to hear, we want to talk, and we're willing to shift. We're willing to, if you can help us learn and evolve, that's why we're here. That's what we're about. And what am I leaving out? Education. Well, I would suggest that all of that we do, also, what'd you say? Cradle to earth.
Birth to earth.
Birth to earth, and then there was somebody said 4 to 24. I'll take them all. Yeah, if we're doing it right, I think we're banging on all 4 of those cylinders. So I'll shut up now and let's have a conversation.
Tom, did we lose you? His computer's still
He turned
there.
into a tree.
Yeah, he did. He turned into a tree.
And it's still on because I see the leaves.
I'll
This
bet some
visitor's walking
visitor
by.
came by and scooped him. Yeah.
Yeah, no spraying.
Sheep applause.
Is that Ranger?
Never work with puppets and children.